As always, we will start with OU football, and we've continued to do our position breakdowns of the spring roster, and it is the offensive line's turn. You have been out to several practices. Before I go into my deep dive and talking about, pelvic tilt and knee and ankle flexion, what stood out to you? What guys have stood out to you when you've been out at practice?
Yeah, I think the number one guy that you're just naturally drawn to is Tyler Guyton, just because of the size and the athleticism, and this is a big year for him. The talent has been apparent for quite some time. It's just about he's been inexperienced, but this is the time for him. He's a starter. He's locking down that right tackle side. Just needs consistency. He can move. He's got great length. There's a lot there. Just has to become an all-around consistent guy, and really the sky's the limit. That's been the main guy that I've seen. It's hard because it's difficult for me whenever they don't have the names out there. It all just looks like the same person. But
spoken like a true defensive guy. My goodness.
Right. Guyton's been the main guy. It's been cool to see Caden Green get out there a little bit as an early arrival.
A little bit. He's been left
size.
tackle with the ones pretty much all spring practice. I mean, it's been more that they have just thrown him into the deep end.
Right. And he's got really good size and he moves well. It's going to be tough as always whenever you're that young and mixing it up with some of those guys. But really, focus has been tackle, and at times the interior guys have looked good, but it's kind of the same thing. You've got a rotation there, and it's hard whenever you're out there at practice to really get a true. I mean, there's good reps here and there, there's bad reps here and there. It's hard to get a true feeling of what someone's done throughout the spring, other than Tyler Guyton, who's looked pretty good. Although I will tell you this, I don't think he likes blocking Bothroyd, who's just super nifty coming around the corner.
Yeah, I've also seen Guyton struggle with old Rondell Bothroyd a little bit. But yeah, when you look at Guyton, I mean, he's exactly what you want in an offensive tackle, right? 6'6", 6'7", 315. But he's not even close, in my opinion, to what he's going to be. Like, he's not even close to a finished product. He's got to find the consistency. And that's the thing about him. Like, you go out one day in spring practice, he looks like the best player on the field, right? And then the next practice, he's struggling with Bothroyd. He's struggling with his initial kick. Like, it just seems off. But he cares, and he just has physical tools that not a lot of human beings on the planet have. Yeah. So he should be OU's best offensive lineman. If he makes the improvements he should make the rest of this spring and throughout the summer, and if he continues to build, right? If he continues to build in a positive direction, he cares. I know he's got the right attitude. I know he wants to be great. He's just got to put the work in. And if he does, should be a first-round draft pick in next year's draft. Mm-hmm. Like that, I can't make it more black and white than that, right? He needs to get there too, right? And I believe he has the mental makeup to get there. He has the physical tools to get there. And he's got one of the best coaches in all of college football, and Bill Bedenbaugh, that is going to be, let's say, nudging him to get there. Yeah. A stern nudging, I would say. But he should be a special player. If he reaches his ceiling as a college player, he should be a first-round pick. Bottom line.
Let me ask you this. What do you think is maybe the main focus, or maybe the top couple of things that could maybe prevent him from getting there? Like, what are his two or three major things that he really needs to work on?
I think the number one thing he has to establish more consistency with is his feet, right? And that's pass game, that's pass sets, run game. He needs to become more consistent with his footwork.
Does that come from, you think,
just reps,
being
man?
But being able to, having been able to rely on athleticism for too long?
Right. It's that, and it's also you got to know the system inside and out, right?
Yeah.
Nothing will get you messed up with your feet like thinking a bunch,
Mm-hmm.
right? Being slow out of your stance. Oh, do I have to do what do I have to do?
Yeah.
He's got to learn the system. He's got to continue to learn the system as well as anyone on that offensive line, and he has to become more consistent with his set patterns, with his run game footwork. If he does that, he should be fine because he's got really long arms. He seems strong enough, even though somehow he's like 315 and still looks skinny.
Yeah.
Like in a good way. Like he looks athletic. Like he doesn't, it's not one of these guys that's got a gut or anything like that. So I think if that's where it starts, like his feet and his eyes, right? When he is 100% dialed in to knowing what he's doing and where he's going and who he's responsible for, he's pretty damn good, man.
Yeah.
He's got to eliminate any hesitation in his game. He's got to continue to build more confidence in what he's doing with his feet and getting to his spots and his sets. And I think that if he does that, which I expect him to, he should have an awesome 2023. I'll be really disappointed if he doesn't.
Yeah. This is the first time he'll have like any real extended period of time getting number one reps. So you should, you would think you see some big time leaps from him through spring and through summer and through training camp.
Yeah. On the other side, Caden Green, when we're just looking at what it's looked like in spring practice, man, he looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to when I'm out there, I got to remind myself he's a true freshman. Like he's an early enrollee. He should still be in high school. I'm really impressed with how much work he has put in to lean out. He looks good, like physically. Mm-hmm. It looks like him and Schmitty got after it in the winter, and that he took that part of things very, very seriously. He moves well. Remember this conversation we were having? Like, hey, they'll start him at tackle. If it doesn't work out, they'll bump him into guard. He looks like he moves plenty well to play offensive tackle at this level in college. To me, I really, compared to what my expectations were for him, I think he's looked damn good, man. And he's getting such valuable reps. Like, how many true freshmen, especially offensive linemen, get to come in early and roll, and they're thrown in the fire with the ones? Like, it doesn't happen that often. So they threw him in the deep end. They wanted to see if he was going to sink or if he was going to swim. And he's somewhere in between, right? He hasn't, I wouldn't say he's been setting records in the 100-meter or anything like that, but he has held his own. And I know they've been impressed with how he's responded to that challenge.
Well, no, all right. So I know I've asked you this question a lot, but I'm throwing it at you again. So if he continues to get reps at left tackle, it goes well, he shows that he's competent there. When Walter Rouse comes back for training camp in the fall, what are the expectations? Stay as the backup left tackle, or does he possibly have the ability to move into like your best five and end up at guard?
Yeah, I would assume, just knowing the way that Bill likes to do things, right? He likes to cross train those guys. He basically, anyone that doesn't play center, he wants to be able to play all four spots, right? Both guards, both tackles. I would bet, because the assumption is Walter Rouse is going to come back. That shoulder's going to be fine. Guy's played a ton of football. He certainly looks the part. That dude's huge. Mm-hmm. I mean, he looks how you want your left tackle to look. I've heard he's very smart, great locker room guy, like everything we expected him to be coming from Stanford. But you're not just going to hand it to Rouse.
Yeah, it's true.
And you're certainly not going to hand the left guard spot to Savion Byrd.
Yeah.
If Caden Green is one of your best either left tackles or left guards, I, I don't care that he's a freshman. Like, I know you want guys that have to earn it. Well, if he outplays these other guys that have been around for a while, then it is what it is, man. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know why that wouldn't be the case.
Right.
We'll see what happens, right? It's a long way between now and kicking it off in the fall, but they've been impressed, and he looks the part. Like now there's some reps where it's like, yeah, that guy looks like a freshman. There's no doubt. Little overpowered here and there, like, but hey, if he continues to improve at the rate he's been improving, I don't want to put any limits on the guy.
Yeah. I mean, offensive line in high school, like that's got to be one of the most difficult transitions to go from high school to big time college football at offensive line. Just the technique, the protections, mentally there's so much more. Physically, you're blocking a completely different type of animal than you are in high school regularly. So that's a tough transition, and the fact that he's doing as well as he has is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Looking at some other guys that are playing tackle in spring ball, Jake Taylor is the guy they just from, being a little thin at the tackle position with Jacob Sexton missing stuff with that knee injury he suffered in the bowl game. They've had Jake Taylor playing right tackle, and he looks pretty solid. Like he is a big athletic guy, moves really well. I think he just needs to continue to improve his technique, to improve the way that he uses his hands, his pad level. There's all these little things, but man, he looks good in a jersey. He moves well, and that's why they recruit him. Remember, he was one of those guys. Hey, is he a tackle? Is he guard? We'll find out. But I think he's getting some valuable reps at tackle and really getting to show what he can do.
Yeah. Well, again, man, he's still a young guy. You got to continue to develop depth. It doesn't take much at all for all of a sudden you're working down the roster a little bit on the offensive line, and that may mean tackles playing guards playing tackle. Who knows what you're going to end up with? So, the fact that I feel like they've started to hit on a couple of the young guys a little bit better. We know what we got out of Sexton. They were super happy about him. He's coming back from that knee from the Florida State game. The fact that Sexton, Taylor, and already Caden Green are adding some good depth early on is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And then Aaron Parks, he doesn't have the length that some of these other guys have, but he continues to play himself into the mix a little bit. But my hope, and it's nothing against Parks or anything like that. My hope is that these guys that do have more physical tools than he's got, right, that they would continue to elevate their game. Now, you can never have too many offensive linemen that you're comfortable putting out there on the field, right? That's just not a thing. Like, give me all of them, but I just don't know how significantly he will factor in to what they're doing in the fall. That being said, like, if he wouldn't have missed some spring practices, he may be the tackle with the ones right now. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, again, man, quality depth and guys that you could perhaps move around is everything right now, especially whenever you don't know who I'm sure they have a good idea, but whenever you've got one of the guys that you've kind of at least penciled in Rouse as a starter that's not in, it's kind of hard to really know what you're going to get from everyone else. And more guys that know what they're doing, have position flexibility, I'm all for it. And it feels like you got a pretty deep well there at tackle that, even if, really bad things happen, you could move some different guys around, and hopefully by the time the season rolls around that you've got some guys that you could trust. I mean, at a minimum.
Yeah. You're hoping to have 4 that you feel really, really good about. right? Yeah. And I think they know what they feel like they know what they're going to get from Rouse. They're on the left side. Guyton has shown flashes of being not only good, but he potentially elite.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's up to, and we'll see what Sexton looks like when he gets back from the knee fully, but it's up to Caden Green, Aaron Parks, Jake Taylor, Sexton, whoever, to provide some depth there at the tackle spot. Anything else you got on the tackles before we move a little further inside?
No, I would just ask, I feel like you feel pretty good about where the tackles are right now, considering that you've got Rouse out with the injury, you've got Sexton battling back from his knee. Considering those things, everything else, like we're in a pretty good spot considering.
I think so. Now you look at you look at what the tackles were a year ago, right? Do I think any of these guys are at Anton's level where he was at towards the end of the season last year? No, not right now. They're not there. Yeah. But that doesn't mean, like, Guyton can get there.
Yeah, Anton Harrison wasn't at that level at this point last year either.
No.
Not to say that someone's going to get there, but he made a lot of progress between now and where he ended the season.
Yeah, and then you look at, I'm expecting Rouse to be one of those, high floor, even though he doesn't maybe have the highest ceiling type of guys, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep.
Which, you know me, I love some consistency in a tackle.
Well, you got to have it. You got to have it.
I don't think, my hope is there with Rouse and Guyton, it should not be some like massive drop off between what we got from Harrison, from Anton and Wanye last year.
Right. Yeah.
That would surprise me. Like if that happens, then those guys did not have the summers and training camps that I expect them to have.
Well, especially whenever you factor in that Wanye Morris missed 5 games last year.
Yeah.
5 of your 12. So, or I guess 5 of your 13. I mean, that's whenever you factor that in, you do hope that you get Guyton and Rouse with some serious consistency, and that helps that quite a bit.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. All right, let's talk the interior. Start with Andrew Raym, right? Missing a lot of spring ball again. Guy just has, and he's a talent, man. He can, I've said it a lot. I'll say it again. He should be a day 2 draft pick when it's all said and done. But he has missed valuable time to sharpen his tools. But I think it's just an abundance of caution. He's going to be very important for them in the fall. He's got to have a great summer. He's got to have a great summer. He's got to continue to add more strength. He's got the mental makeup you want. He's physical. He's aggressive. He's the proper amount of crazy. It's about the technique for me, right? It's about his feet, his hands, and I'm going to continue to tell myself that it's all going to come together. And 2023 is the year for Andrew Raym. Come on, Raym, you got it, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know that he's incredibly talented, but I mean, there comes a point with anyone that I don't lose faith in Raym at all, as far as like what he can be and how good he is. But like at some point, you got to wonder: is he a guy that we can count on? It's been one thing after another, injury wise, and I know that you can't necessarily do anything about that as a player. Whenever they pile up, they pile up. But he's missed so much critical practice time that I feel like he's been really held back as to where he should be at this point right now. If you pile up all of the practices, all of the reps that he's missed, it's substantial. And is that something that he's going to be able to overcome? And, I also feel like, and you would know better than I would, so this is more of a question, but I think Raym would benefit a lot from having players next to him that were way more physical than like we had guys that were in the right place a year ago, but it would help. It would go a long way to have some physicality on either side of him.
Yeah. And that's what Beatonbow's looking for. Right. You look at what Savion Byrd has done during spring ball. I think we all were very excited with some of the stuff we saw from him in the Florida State game, in the bowl game last year. The foundation for Savion Byrd it's solid now, right? He's leaned out. He lost a lot of bad weight, got all the way down to like 283, 285. That weight is going to continue to tick back up, but it's going to be better weight than it was. And just from, being out to a couple practices, he looks way less lost out there now than he did a year ago. He's communicating a lot better. He's got all the physical tools, man. Right? He's got all the physical tools. He's got the nasty, like all of that stuff. It's about knowing what he's doing, communicating it, and then executing. You're going to take some plays where he's taking big swings and misses, right? Like that's just going to come with the way that he wants to play. But my hope is the consistency will continue to build. But he should be the starting left guard. He absolutely should if he takes care of his business. We'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic with how he has looked, but long way between now and the season. So we'll see. But there's no doubt. I mean, he's an incredibly physically gifted dude.
Yep. That's what we need. We need the road graders in there. And, we know that he plays with the attitude that we've seen from some guys in years past. He's got some of that and just brings that physical nature. And again, I think that would help Andrew Raym a lot.
I'm with you. So right guard, Mettauer. I feel like I know what I'm going to get from him. Right? Is this his 6th year of college? He's basically a doctor. Now I would say, hey, seems like an awesome locker room guy, funny guy. I know a lot of people saw the mic'd up and probably enjoyed that, but very well respected, good leader, like all of that stuff. He's just, I just don't think he's not going to all of a sudden turn into Ben Powers, you know what I mean? And start mauling guys and pancaking them to the ground and just dominating people. But he's a solid option at right guard. Solid option. Like if he ends up starting that right guard for him, I feel like, hey, I know what I'm getting. That being said, my hope is that someone that's got some more physical gifts will challenge him for that spot, if that makes sense. But Bill loves consistency. I love consistency. Like if you can't trust the other guy, like if it's this big roller coaster of emotions with how these other guys are going to play, then yeah, you're going to see Mettauer.
Yeah. Do you know, can he play center?
I've never seen him snap the ball in practice.
Okay. I was just wondering if he's like kind of like Conjul last year that can play center, can play the guard spots.
Nate Anderson has been the 69.
Yeah.
He's been the one who, when Raym has missed these practices, who has stepped in for them, him and Josh Bates. And I'll tell you, I think Josh Bates has a chance to be a good player.
That's what they've been saying.
I've
heard that from multiple people up there.
He's got multiple screws loose, which is what you want.
Right.
Which is good. But seems like he has been able to process everything, process the offense well, which is first and foremost what you have to be able to do if you want to play center for Bill Beatonbow.
Well, he's like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say rare, but to find a guy that for a really long time has wanted to be a great center. It's like what he has always wanted to be. He seems like he's ahead of the curve, driven, and kind of knows where he wants to end up, which is a good thing.
Yeah. And if he can, I've got some some nitpicky stuff with him. He's a true freshman. He's got to get stronger, right? You can say that about the most talented true freshmen across the country that are participating in spring practice right now. That applies to all of them. But the sooner he can learn that you play low by bending at your ankles and your knees and with some curve in your spine and your forehead up, as opposed to bending at your waist and playing with an actual flat back with your forehead down.
Yeah.
I think he's starting to learn, like, hey, I can't do that. I end up on my face too much.
Yep.
And he started to make that adjustment. Had a small talk with him at practice, and I'm pretty sure he was like, who the hell is this guy? which is hilarious. But he's got the right makeup, man. I mean, he wants to be great. He gets in there and battles. He will absolutely scrap. So he's the guy I'm excited about. Now, if you have to play true freshman on the interior of the offensive line, typically that's not the situation you're looking for. But if you end up having to throw him out there, nothing against Nate Anderson, right? But if Bates can have a really, really good summer, then I would expect him to be making a strong push for the backup center spot when the season rolls around. Now, hey, maybe Anderson makes some significant progress, but he's been around a while and we've just never seen him on the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if Bates can really have a nice summer, then maybe he's your backup center. And with how injury prone Raym has been, you never know. You could be tossing a true freshman out there to start for you at center at some point in the season.
I'd say at this point it's likely, you know.
Well, don't put that on Raym, man. Remember, it's all going to come together for him this year. He's going to play incredibly well and be a late second or early third round draft pick. I'm just speaking it into existence. Here it goes. Positivity, Ted.
I'm there with you. I hope he plays every single snap, and I hope he's in every single practice in the fall. What about Shaffer, the Miami of Ohio transfer?
So I know you've been out to spring practice. They're playing him at tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is safe to say he is not an offensive tackle. You get out there, you're like, that guy is huge. That's a big body. My thing with him, he is my expectation. He is going to battle for one of the guard spots, whether that's left guard or right guard. I don't really care, but I think because they'll in practice they'll do where he's the tackle for the twos and for what they call like the pride group, which is the threes. Pride, you can call it what you want. It's threes. I think they just want him to get in shape.
Yeah.
I think he arrived and what was he? He's listed at 337. That's too heavy.
Yeah.
Or we need to, what's the best word? Redistribute that 337. And I think Caleb Shaffer and Jerry Schmidt are going to become very, very well acquainted in the summer months. And I think him leaning out a little bit, because he moves pretty well. When you go out there and watch him, he moves pretty well. If he leans out a little bit, gets a little more explosiveness to him, I would not be surprised if he starts multiple games at guard or even starts the season as one of your starting guards, because that's a big dude, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a big physical dude. And, going back and watching what he did at Miami of Ohio, he's got the nasty that Bill is looking for.
Good. Well, I like it. It feels like overall, at least at this point, in a pretty good position for the offensive line, right? Or
I feel better about it than I thought I was going to feel. And you know me, these last couple of years, I have kind of taken I don't want to say a pessimistic view, just like I've just been patient with my assessment of what I thought the groups were going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling I'm feeling pretty good about where they're at right now. So we'll see. I think Shaffer developing and giving you some depth at guard, challenging for one of those starting spots is important. And then I think the third and even fourth tackles, I think those are my big question marks right now.
Yeah.
Got to stay healthy. That's everyone, right? You got to stay healthy, but feel decent about it. Then again, I feel like the other day in the scrimmage, they rushed for like 500 yards on the defense and just mauled their ass. So I was like, yeah. So I was like, oh my God, they're going to be amazing. And then I was like, relax. It was just one day. So I've been out there and seen them get their ass kicked. And I've been out there and see them look really solid. So who knows, man?
Well, I'll tell you what I like a lot is that if you just go, I mean, Guyton's still young, but if you look at Caden Green, Jake Taylor, Jacob Sexton, even Byrd, who's a fairly younger guy, Bates, who's a early arrival. I feel like for the first time, our young recruited depth is starting to look really, really good. Whenever it feels like the past 2 or 3 years, we've almost been entirely dependent on transfer guys coming in,
Yeah.
Feels like Bill's finally getting a really good base of recruited young guys that can kind of come up in the system and really know by the time they're really asked to play, they know they're going to be much more informed on this offense by the time that rolls around.
Yeah, I'm excited about some of the young guys.
Yeah.
I was really impressed. I wasn't going in with super high expectations of Caden Green and his ability to move. And I just kind of liked his demeanor, very businesslike, didn't say much, which there's nothing we love more than a freshman that doesn't say a lot, Ted.
Right. Yeah,
and then Josh Bates. Player. Yeah, Josh Bates. I like the mentality. I like where his career, like the trajectory that he is on. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about, but it's similar. It's similar to what we said about the defensive ends group, like the edge group.
Yeah.
It's something like they have to have a massive summer and a really good training camp. And especially a couple of these guys, I've not hid this. I think Tyler Guyton can be a special player.
Yeah.
He should be. So that's where I am cautiously optimistic about what this offensive line is going to look like.
It's good enough for me in April.
I do like the way they compete.
Good.
Which, if sometimes you're going to lose battles, man, but I can ride with guys that are out there playing hard and competing. So we'll see. I think this is maybe the 5th time I've said this in this podcast. It's a long way until we kick this thing off in the fall. So